Well, thank you guys for doing this. I appreciate you taking the
Of
time as
course.
always.
Yeah.
May, I don't think we've actually met in person. We've spoken over email, but it is good to
Yeah.
see you
Nice
face to face.
to meet you. Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen you perform with Kenny at the listening room on a couple of occasions, and absolutely love your stuff. So it's
Thank you
good to
so
have
much.
you on.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Uh, yeah, how are things for you guys at the moment? Because obviously COVID has taken over our lives the last few months, and I guess as a songwriter, it must be a tricky situation. So, how have you dealt with the whole kind of Zoom writing thing and not being able to do shows? And how have you found it?
You want me to go first, May?
You go ahead.
Um, Let me just say that I hate Zoom. Can we just say that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm happy to get on here and see your beautiful face, but I hate Zoom. Here's why. Because it's better than nothing. It's better than a phone call. I'm going to tell you that right now. But it's close enough to the real thing and not the real thing that it almost inserts this weirdness where it's like, oh, you talk, no, me, I was, which would never happen in real life, right? So then like everybody feels weird with each other. It's fine. So what I've been doing with songwriting is only getting people that I already know like me and are going to forgive me of all that crap. Because like if I was starting brand new writes and people were like, everyone's trying to be nice and cordial, and they're like, I don't know, Kenny was a little chopped. Like I can't put up with that. It's too much expectation. So songwriting's been good, but I have been very I don't know, particular about who I co-write with over Zoom. You know what I mean? What about you, May?
Yeah, I definitely hate Zoom a lot. I think I was one of them that kind of started back in the room fairly early. I had COVID back in July, and then once recovered from that, I kind of just mentally decided that I was, immune, which we hope is a thing, or at least have a really good chance of being, able to not get it again. But so any chance I can get where everyone's comfortable and has pretty much quarantined themselves, and we're able to still be socially distant in most of those rooms. So because it was awful trying to write on Zoom, I agree. I don't think anyone's really loved it, but it's also been like the sanity that has held me together was having new songs to sit around and play and love, and because I feel rusty. Like if somebody asks how I feel, like I've never felt the definition of rusty more than I do right now. And
Oh
I
man.
mean, I've been playing my guitar and singing and writing things down, and I mean, still messing with music just as much, but it just all feels really foreign. It's like I just tried to go do a cheerleading routine that I did in middle school or something is what it all feels like. It's like, yeah, I remember vaguely, like, but I don't feel great about it. I don't feel confident in it.
Oh,
So it's just a constant struggle of trying to remember what it was like, because we're definitely headed back there eventually. But it's been really weird. But I am thankful that we do work in an industry that has found a way to remotely survive through it. I'm thankful that we can either write over a phone or Zoom or by ourselves, and that guitars are not something that has to be maintained, in a huge way. Like, just I'm thankful that we are in an industry that still exists in COVID.
And thankfully, you guys have got a new song out to keep us going through these tough times. And I absolutely love you now. It's a great track. And am I right in thinking that one's been around for like 7 years, Kenny?
Yeah, man. It's been around a long time. I don't even know what spawned it. I couldn't even tell you. It's just Kirsty and I, we get together, we write weird stuff, like and good stuff, but like there's no rhyme or reason to it some of the times. We wrote Drinking at Home together off of Deep Cuts. And this is a very, very different track from that, but Kirsty's really good at focusing on the story and making compelling images. And so I like doing that with her. And so that's been sitting around forever. And I've sang it in round before. And May has sang the girl part with me in rounds before, and all over the world in some cases. So it just made sense during this time where I mean, my writing, there is a lot less of it, but also I when we made the idea to do this song, I wasn't working on a new record. I didn't know what music was going to look like. I wasn't sure when I would be able to put out new stuff again. And I was like, well, let's reach back and see if we can't find something that like needs this moment in the sun before I just keep blasting through and writing new stuff over the top of it. You know what I mean? Like when you keep paving over old songs, you'll forget them really quick. And so pulling this one out and dusting it off, and then asking Mae and having her graciously accept to record it. Yeah, no, it was, it just seemed like the right thing at the right time.
So, Mae, can you remember the first time that you heard the track, and tell us a little bit about why you fell in love with it so much and why you wanted to be a part of this with Kenny?
Yeah, so it's been several years ago that I heard it. Kenny and I have known each other for over 5 years, but a solid 5 years. He was one of the very first people that I met before I even moved. And then clearly I connected with him and his wife, Sarah, so quickly, and they just took me in as family and have been very much the reason I haven't tucked tail and moved back to Arkansas a million times by now. But that was one of those that the melody just stuck with you. And I usually learn songs pretty quickly, but I mean, I left the show the first night I heard it, like trying to sing it in my head already, and had friends, text me after some shows we played together, like, what was that song, that Kenny was singing and you came in on? Because we used to do like the sneak attack at the end, and I would only sing on the What Took You So Long at the end. But Marty, our friend Marty Dotson, actually sang the demo that I got to hear, which doesn't suck. It sells it more than if the song did suck, Marty, made it one of my favorites ever too. So I'm not sure if I should credit Kenny or Marty, but
that's fair.
No, it's just one of my favorites, but it was one of those, I think we all love each other's stuff, but I maybe twice have reached out to Kenny and been like, I need this demo of this song before, like, if you don't have it out, I need a work tape. Like, I need something. I need to hear this again more than once a month at Around. And there's a couple songs I've asked for like that, and that was one of them, just genuinely as a listener to jam to. So when he asked, I was like, oh, wow, that's my favorite song. And naturally, I know it forwards and backwards because I'm such a fan of it. So that was what my favorite part of being involved was. I've mentioned before, was just getting to sing it and feel it and try to put myself in that character's position, because I sure didn't have to think about the words or the melody because I've been loving it.
And I know you spoke about this a little bit with James at Lyric the other day, but I wanted to touch on the songwriting process for a duet and how that kind of differs from when you're writing a song for yourself or another solo artist. And this is probably for you, Kenny, but you can jump in as well, Mae, if you want, because I know you wrote the song, Kenny. But I know nothing about songwriting, so as someone who knows nothing, tell us about that process of putting a duet together.
Well, that's a great question, because once it becomes a duet, you've got a new set of rules that you have to consider, because you've got some overlap that can happen, because you can discuss the same situation but from a different angle instead of progressing the story. And so in a duet, sometimes you'll hang in the same moment or the same period of time a lot longer, for 2 whole stanzas before you hit that chorus. Or when you come back from a chorus, you're in that same moment. And that's different because I think for most songwriters, they're trying to progress the story, to provide more color, to provide more. And the interesting thing is you're actually providing more color to the exact same instance, which seems like it'd be easier because you don't have to like dream up these other scenarios or whatever else is going on. But no, in this case, it's sort of like, well, how do we say it anew without sitting on top of the thing that we've already said? Like, how do we make that fresh? It can't just be a new voice that makes us there, like, because they need to tell us how they're feeling now, right? And so I think when you're writing a duet, and I don't even know that you set out to write a duet. I have done that before, but sometimes you just, and most of the time, I think I've even spoken to you about this too, Dan, but like, you just write the best song on the day. And you don't worry about where it's going. You don't worry about who it's for. if it makes both writers or all three writers, whoever's in the room, if everyone's excited about it and we're all pushing towards an end, then we can worry about the rest of it later. And this one just felt like a duet about halfway through. And because why wouldn't you do this? And Mae was talking about the sneak attack. Well, I used to not bring in a girl's voice until the phone call in the bridge. And because then it would just be like a for everybody in the writers room or the writers round, they thought it was just me singing my song, and then someone else would come in, and that was always a real gasp moment. And so I wasn't even sure how it would work as a full-on duet, singing back and forth. And but it works really, really well. I think. I mean, I'm responsible for it, so yeah. Of course I'm gonna think it's great.
Mate, do you want to jump in on that at all? Have you had any experience writing duets, and how you find it a different experience?
Yeah, I wrote one, but I don't think like you said, you just kind of write the best song you can. I don't think we were trying to make it a duet until we looked up and it was one. And looking back at it now, like, it definitely fits the duet. Like, I don't think it would make any sense if we sang it by ourselves, but you also never know how much you convince yourself of that, like, because you're so involved in the story then that you can't see it any other way. But as far as crafting a great duet, I feel like a lot of time these days people throw two voices and two artists on a song that is not a duet. So I appreciate that this is one of those old school, like we've been saying, like a 90s country, but they are actually duets. No matter who is singing them, like, they work best when two different people are portraying two different sides of the story. So I appreciate that, because I do feel like in today's climate, people are just looking for collaborations, and they kind of feel forced because they're just singing this one song and trying to throw two different voices on it. So I think this was the best way that a duet could be crafted, as far as absolutely you have to have both pieces of the story or it's not a full story.
Yeah, it's interesting. And just coming back to your solo stuff, Mae, you released Best Side not too long ago, which obviously Kenny was a part of. And it's totally different to anything you've released beforehand. There's so much sass in there, so much energy. So I wanted to speak to you about the writing process for that one, and how much Kenny helped bring that side out of you in the writing room.
So that feels like a whole lifetime ago. That was 4 years ago, I think. Wow. Kenny and I were still pretty new as co-writers. A few times before, but definitely nothing down that lane ever. And we had gotten comfortable as people, so he wasn't surprised when I came in and dropped that idea. It was me, Kenny, and Autumn McIntyre. And yeah, so I just felt comfortable around these people, and they were my friends outside of writing. And so I just was able to say things the way I felt them and thought about them with no judgment, which is, once I got to that point in Nashville, was a game changer for me, where it was like, surround yourself with people who are not going to judge what you say, and you're going to find the most incredible creative part of you, because sometimes it's ugly and sometimes it is dumb and stupid. And it's like, no, that should never come out of your mouth, or like, don't say that around anyone else. But I found my safe place of people who, instead of beating you down like that, just say, well, that sparks an idea for me, or, maybe this. But so it was just about comfort, and Kenny's great about, encouraging your thoughts, no matter if they fit the song or not. So I came in with that idea that I'd had since I was embarrassingly young. Just because that kind of had fit my life that whole way. I was built kind of funny from growing up, and so we always joke about my backside. And I've tried to write that song several times, and actually at Kylie Evans and Kenny tried to write that song one time.
Oh yeah.
And it was going somewhere cool, but we could tell, both of us could tell, it wasn't what that song needed. Sure. And then I don't know, something was in the room that day, because we didn't struggle at all.
It was fast.
It didn't take very long. It was a super fast ride, and we never had to argue about the direction of the song or the attitude of the song. It was, which I guess just to most people on the outside, it looks like it can only go one way. But it definitely didn't feel that way to me. Like, for a minute, it was kind of a deep breakup, and the sass I always felt was there, but I didn't want it to be silly. And this kind of started out like being my fun, silly writer's round song. And then I got to the point where I was like, if you just read these lyrics off a piece of paper, I think it is an extremely well-crafted song. And so I stand behind that. I think it can be considered a silly idea, but I've got deeper stuff if you want to go hear it. But if you just analyze the lyrics by themselves, I think you would respect that we wrote a great song.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna second that.
Yeah.
And Kenny, just coming to you on your solo stuff, you've announced that you're going to release the Vintage collection.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that project and what we can expect from it.
Well, it's the same. It comes from the same place that putting Love You Now into the world happened. Like, it's just old songs that like haven't necessarily fit. Like, I don't have a ton of like 90s style throwback songs, and so putting those into a collection of an album or an EP was just going to feel weird. Like, I don't have enough of them that would have felt, I don't know. It's a great song, but it feels out of place in context. I've got a few of those. I've got some songs that are like, they're down and out. Like, I've got a guitar vocal of one. That's all it's going to be. And it's just the saddest song ever, but it's really well written, and it's not necessarily my story. So again, it's not going to go on my project. So the Vintage collection is going to be it's going to be a sprinkling of all of these different ideas and different voices from me that I don't necessarily get to use when I'm doing my own personal stuff. And I just wanted that during this time again, because I didn't know how much of a story to tell moving forward. Especially because I didn't know when I'd be able to tour it and be that person again. So I took this time of like, look, I'm not touring. So like, I don't know, there's a real expectation that I'm going to be singing these songs every night. And so it kind of lets them breathe and be their own thing during this period. So that was the point of the Vintage collection. Because then in the meantime, since assembling the Vintage collection and kind of putting together the plan for that, I also made a record. So like, I've got 13 tunes that will be hitting in mass sometime next year. Again, hopefully, I mean, we're going to wait until I can actually support it with a tour so that I can sing the songs every night. And there is an expectation that conversation will continue because I can't tour with Mae in my pocket all the time. So it was okay for me to put out a duet. So there would be no expectation that I'd have to put her in a backpack or something with me. So, well,
just finally, as you're speaking about touring, when are you going to bring Mae to the UK?
Well, that was my next point, right? So, as soon as we can get on an airplane and go there, I mean, it's just like our passports aren't great now. I don't know if you figured that out, but like there aren't a lot of places we can go. But you'll let us, as long as we hang out for 2 weeks before we go. So as soon as that becomes a financially viable scenario, yeah, I would love to do it. I think we've got a writer's round in the making, I think.
Yeah, I'm sitting on go. I'm so excited just at the thought. So anytime Kenny and Sarah are like, pack your bags, I'm pretty much there. Because we got to do the coolest thing in the whole world on the Armed Forces tour that we went on last year, which feels like 4 years ago by now. But yeah, so I'm very small town, have barely been out of the country, but now I've been out of the country a lot and a whole lot. They threw me in the deep end of traveling, but
that's true.
Yeah, a 13-hour flight was like probably my 4th flight ever, like in my whole life.
Yeah,
and then going there and coming back as 2 flights, like that kind of flying. I've barely been on a plane, barely been out of Arkansas, close enough to drive to my hometown, so it was just like mind blowing. But I respect their lives so much, and I'm so excited at the thought of traveling. So, like I said, anytime they say, "Hey, we got this idea, my bags are packed, let's go."
I'm going to hold you guys to that. We're going to make this happen next year. Once all this COVID rubbish is over, you guys have got to come.
All right, we're in.
For sure.
All right, guys, thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate your time, and yeah, best of luck with the new song. I'm sure it's going to do amazing things for you.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it, man.